Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode or whatever that you can call this. I've been kind of trying to find a new way to record some astrology videos, and I was trying to screen share on my computer, and it wasn't working. I thought I was doing like 2 videos at the time, but I was like, it wasn't working, I guess, so I'm filming with my phone like I have been, for all my videos. So in this video, I'm just kind of be, going through the astrology, explaining little things here and there, give you a little, little heads up on what's to come, basically for the next couple of months. So what I first want to talk about is this new moon that we're coming off of. This new moon is Scorpio. So this new moon in Scorpio is basically, it has Mars right in between them. Mars is in between the luminaries, the sun and the moon. They are considered the luminaries. And they're all in Scorpio. So this is kind of like all of this energy is in this like deep, yucky, depth, emotional kind of sign. We are kind of like in the dead of fall right now. Everything is kind of dying at the moment. At least in the northern hemisphere. But this new moon in Scorpio, usually new moons, you would, start something new, have new intentions of like starting something. And this is the area of Scorpio for all of our charts. So, Scorpio is, represents that emotional, raw kind of type of energy. It's more real. It's very deep in depth with how it expresses itself. And the ruler is Mars, and Mars is basically here in between the luminaries during this new moon. And right now Mars is coming into the heart of the sun, which is basically called combustion. It's like when a planet comes at least 10 degrees within the sun, and it's basically getting burnt up. Like it's like kind of like that. A planet passes through the heart of the sun, passes through the sun. It's being purified, it's being burnt up. This is kind of like ending a cycle, or a planet dying and basically being rebirthed as it passes through the sun. A lot of like old ancient astrology, or people very, very long time ago, they would say that a planet is basically dying when it comes close, when it passes through the sun. And then it basically is being rebirthed, and it's Mars. So Mars is, what does Mars represent? It represents our actions, it represents our ambitions, it represents conflicts, severing, just stuff that gets us going. And Mars is the planet of like us, like going after and doing something. What gets us up in the morning? Like basically kind of like that energy. That's kind of Mars. And Mars being in Scorpio, this is a very strong position for Mars. Mars has all the tools and resources that it can basically operate, by doing its job. And Mars can be very, very deep, very cutthroat, very emotional, and just down in the dirty stuff, that while it's in Scorpio and stuff like that. So. But Mars is being purified by the sun right now, but it's in a good position. This is what astrologers call Mars being in its chariot. That's another way of saying that, because Mars is in its home sign, or it's in its own sign where it's okay. Usually when the Mercury passes through the sun, which it does like very often, but it doesn't often happen in Mercury's ruled signs. But this last time when we had Mercury retrograde in Virgo, it was in its considered chariot. It was in its home sign when it was like passing through the sun, so it was operating very, in a way that Mercury likes to operate, even though it was in retrograde and stuff like that. But this isn't Mars retrograde. This is Mars direct. We are basically refreshing our direction in life. We are refreshing this area of life. That has to do with Mars, and that has to do with the area of Scorpio that rules in our chart. So if you know where Scorpio rules in your chart, you are basically getting this, this refresh kind of energy to do with Mars and stuff like that. the planet of action, ambition, stuff like that, and being in this passionate, emotional, deep rooted sign of Scorpio that it represents. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of internal, deep, like wounds and stuff like that. Like not really deep wounds, but like it does have, it can lean on, the wound side of like the pain, the painful, the resentment and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things like kind of like, restarting around this time. And another really important thing that's going on here is everything in Scorpio. Sorry, I was just looking at my window. Okay, everything in Scorpio is opposing Uranus in Taurus right now. And that's going to create like a lot of instability, volatile energy, chaotic energy, expecting unexpected kind of stuff like that. This is kind of like, Uranus is kind of like that energy that like you are, someone pulls the rug underneath your feet and you slip and you're like, whoa, you fall and slip and hurt yourself, or something chaotic happens and you're just like, whoa, didn't expect that and stuff like that. So this opposition going on here, I mean, let alone just having Mars, opposite Uranus is probably one of the most challenging aspects of astrology. It's very like out there. It's very, bubbles will like basically burst and stuff like that, and things will kind of stir the pot, and you can end up having fights and stuff like that. This can happen in your personal life, or we could see it in the in the news, or like the global news and stuff, and like what's going on out in the world. I mean, we have been dealing with this war going on in Israel, so we could probably still see more chaotic things happening out there, which is really sad to say, but that's just what the astrology is showing us, and it's just an idea. I'm just seeing what I'm speaking what I'm seeing, guys. So I think I was like kind of saying this in my TikTok video that I made for November. If you follow me on there, I've been making some TikTok videos explaining some of the astrology, and I'm also promoting my clothing, my merch on there. So if you're interested in that too, I will put that in the description below, because I have a lot of great sales going on this month. Just kind of wanted to add that onto there. I have a 20% off sale in the middle of the month of November 15th through the 19th. I have a Black Friday sale, which is probably the highest percentage I've seen so far, 30% off everything. It's a one-day sale, guys, so really take advantage of that. If you want any items, I will be lowering my prices as well, so that's going to be a plus. I'm going to be lowering my prices probably until the end of the year, so take advantage of this. I'm not sure what I'll be promoting in December, but a lot of my items will be a little cheaper than where they are right now. So, just wanted to add that as well. So, getting back to the astrology, let's kind of move on. So, I mean, Mercury just entered the sign of Sagittarius not too long ago, like a couple days before this new moon. And Mercury's in Sag. Mercury's in its sign of detriment. It doesn't, really work all that well here, but that doesn't mean it's all bad. Mercury is, about our communication, our thoughts, the way we process information, the way we translate stuff, travel and stuff like that. When it's in the sign of Sagittarius, which is all about, the big picture, the optimist, having a vision, seeing beyond the horizon, expanding our horizons and stuff like that. Sagittarius is a very interesting sign because it has that, it can see a lot of things that, haven't happened yet, but they just have this, this intuitive feeling that things will happen if they think it and, predict it, or, have this vision that, I will basically, because it's like the arrow, it's an arrow. You're shooting the arrow, basically like beyond, like to the sky, letting it go, and then just, because what's out there. It's kind of like that, the Sagittarius thing. It's like beyond there, and you will aim for the stars to reach it. And that's one of my favorite things about Sagittarius. I'm a Sag myself. I'm not just saying that because I am, but it's a very interesting note that, about the sign of Sagittarius and stuff like that. So just wanted to put that on there. But Mercury will be basically, focusing on the bigger picture. It's in a Jupiter ruled sign. It's very big. It's very, larger than life and stuff like that. It's a very idealistic sign. Like I said, it will be making a square to Saturn as soon as it gets in, and like all these other planets, the Sun and Mars, when they get into Sag, they're going to be forming this square to Saturn. This will be, kind of, watering down all this fiery energy that we want to basically present ourselves with. Saturn is about the responsibilities, authorities, restrictions, long-term goals, putting, basically it's like Saturn's kind of like a 1 step forward, 3 steps or 2 steps back or whatever, like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back kind of energy. Saturn really is about like taking those 1 step things at a time, no matter how long it takes. It is the Lord of Karma, which is the Lord of Time. Also, another word for, that describes Saturn. So yeah, but Saturn is basically back at the point where he was in March of this year. It just entered Pisces in March. And then it basically just went direct a few days ago, at the beginning of November. And we're back at this spot. So think back of like what responsibilities you were dealing with in March, what responsibilities you basically started. Maybe you started a new job, relationship, you got something new to do with, planning stuff for the future and stuff like that. We are kind of at that point where, when Saturn was at this point back in March, it was kind of like, okay, we are in a new area of life. This is, here's some new things that you are basically being presented with. Then, we basically, when Saturn was going direct, it was kind of just like giving this, new perspective, but then it went retrograde in June. And then, since June until November, it was in retrograde. And that process of the Saturn retrograde was kind of like, what can we do to like make this more real? What can we make this, how can we make this stuff more stable? What are the things that we need to build? What are the things that we really need to focus on that will create this reality for us? Saturn is in Pisces, which is about like the mystical, spiritual, fantasy, dreamy area of like kind of like the sign or whatever. That's what Pisces is all about. But Saturn is all about reality. It's like what's real, what's basically as far as we can see of like, Saturn is the farthest planet that we can see with the visual eye, and Saturn rules reality. So like everything like that we can see basically from Earth to Saturn is like basically like the what can be considered real or accepted, I should say. So anything beyond Saturn is kind of like in the backdrop, it's in behind the scenes and stuff like that. So Saturn, what I'm trying to say is like even though Saturn's in this like the spiritual kind of sign, this sign that's like kind of like all about fantasy and like illusions and it's with Neptune, by the way, too. So that's another we'll just set that aside. But Saturn is kind of like trying to contain all of this spiritual stuff and this fantasy stuff. Like it wants to contain all of this stuff. It wants to restrict all of this stuff that we usually like to fantasize about or dream about and stuff like that. And Saturn is testing our faith, and it will be testing our faith over until like the beginning of 2026. So this is like a 2.5 to 3 year transit, guys. There's a lot of things going on here. I know I'm just kind of explaining a lot. But yeah, I'm just trying to explain everything that's going on. But yeah, Saturn in Pisces, it will kind of like test your faith, your internal faith, to see what is really expanding for you internally. But you have to, work for this type of faith. You have to work towards, what you want to be real, and not, let go of anything that is not real and fake. Like I mentioned, Neptune is here. Saturn will be getting closer and closer to Neptune, and they will make a conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries in like 2026 and stuff like that. But Saturn and Neptune, this is kind of like dissolving reality. This is kind of like breaking the walls of, the spiritual stuff, or like breaking the walls of reality and just like, seeing beyond our perspective or the vision that we see. Because Neptune is about like illusions, deception, fantasy and stuff like that, kind of like, because it's basically the co-ruler or the modern ruler of Pisces, whatever. You can argue with that if you want to, but when Saturn and Neptune get together, it's really kind of like dissolving and like changing the boundaries of like how we perceive everything around us and stuff like that. Like Neptune is that that like kind of like that 4 or 5D level of like what's beyond there. You know, it's about having faith and stuff like that. It's a very spiritual kind of like out there sign. And when Saturn comes with Neptune, it's kind of like Saturn's like bringing the reality to mixing with this fantasy type of dreamy kind of energy. It's a very interesting, the last time, I should say, let me just give you an example. The last time Saturn and Neptune conjunct, they were in Capricorn. And I believe that was when the Berlin Wall, you know, basically came down and stuff like that. So it was, see, that's kind of like breaking the boundaries of like what has been restricted or like blocked and stuff like that. It's like breaking the walls down and stuff, you know, to see what's beyond what you know, stuff like that. It's a very interesting time. So like we are in a very interesting time because Saturn and Neptune are kind of co-present in the sign of Pisces, and when they conjoin in the sign of Aries, that's going to be a whole new ball, like the whole new world that we are entering, guys. Because I mean, Aries is kind of like that first, you know, initiative kind of sign of like, it's kind of like the spring, like it's the start of the zodiac. It's the astrological new year where it starts and stuff like that. So when we have Saturn and Neptune conjoining in Aries, we are entering a new, like, whole new world, guys. I'm not even just saying this. That we are like, the times we're in right now, we are just in the process of what's building up to this, you know, this Saturn and Neptune conjunction, and then beyond and stuff like that. Because Pluto is going to be going back into Aquarius this January, and then it'll swing back into Capricorn for like 2 more months, and then it's fully into Aquarius by next November until like 2044. And a lot of the outer planets, I mean, Jupiter is going to be conjoining Uranus in April of 2024. That's going to be a very explosive, expansive kind of like new perspective of like what's going on in the, like our Taurus area of life. I mentioned this in like one of my last videos or something, that this is going to be probably one of the, you know, biggest transits of 2024. You know, Jupiter is about expansion, philosophies, idealism, you know, growth and stuff like that. And like I said, Uranus is about instability, chaotic stuff, unexpected. So this could either go, you know, good or bad, you know, either positive or negative in our personal lives and in the world or whatever. So I'm really excited for this Jupiter, you know, Uranus conjunction. Usually it's probably like a very positive, you know, transit, because those two planets are very like just expansive. You know, they're kind of like shooting into like, this will kind of like give us a lot of like futuristic stuff, like even if it has to do with technology, science, you know, anything about life and stuff like that. Like, so we could, like, from that point on, from after April 2024 and beyond, we can see a lot of new like technologies coming out. We can see a lot of, you know, maybe like like stuff to do with like foreign stuff and languages and like science and stuff like that. That's going to be very interesting. I think I talked about it in one of my last 2 videos about that, but I wanted to mention that in this because I didn't get to my last video. I got cut off because I was dealing with a hurricane, or it was like part of the hurricane that was going on the West Coast and stuff like that. Kind of crazy. It shut off my whole video, and I was really upset about that. But so yeah, let me just kind of go through that. I know I've been talking a lot. This is 18 minutes that I've been talking about this whole thing, but I'm trying to give you guys a whole, like, the bigger picture of what's going on. Okay, so like the Sun and Mars are in Sagittarius now. They're going to be forming that square to Saturn, like I was mentioning. So there's going to be the blocks and like the restrictions, you know, because Sagittarius is very optimistic and wants to go. It's free. It's kind of like we're out of this yucky, you know, deep, dark Scorpio stuff, or into this free flowing, you know, expanded world of Sagittarius that it represents. But then it's in a hard aspect to Saturn, and it's like, well, we are blocked still. We're not free yet. We might feel free, but we are still dealing with some challenges that we are responsible for. We are not done yet. So it's like, even though this energy will pass and stuff like that, but then, like, you know, Mercury's about to enter its shadow at this point too. So he'll come back to this point in like the end of December, beginning of January and stuff like that, because it'll end up going retrograde. So let's kind of move forward. So we got this full moon in Gemini happening, and it's going to be opposing Mars, which could be, you know, a little chaotic. You know, fights can basically break off. You never know. This full moon in Gemini is basically illuminating, communication, the more like intellectual stuff, like learning stuff like that. When I can't even think of it. I was like explaining in the last video. But whatever, the little details and stuff like that, and like intellectual stuff and stuff like that, what do we need to focus on? We need to focus on the little details before we basically go into this expansive, Sagittarius, like open world kind of stuff. And yeah, it's opposing Mars. It could be, can bring up conflicts and stuff like that. It can bring very emotional, like unstableness and stuff like that, very instability, inconsistent stuff. And like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this, but it's in the luminaries plus Mars, Sun and Moon will be in a T-square to Saturn. So it's kind of like just adding this like more restrictive and stuff like that. And I mentioned that in the TikTok video too, about this, both the luminaries are going to be in a T-square to Saturn. So both lunations, like for November, the new moon in Scorpio, the full moon in Gemini, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, like I mentioned. So yeah, and then Mercury enters its shadow. Basically, it's in its shadow, and then it's going into Capricorn. Is there anything I missed? I don't think so. I mean, Venus is basically still in Libra. It's been enjoying its, home sign. It's been connecting with people and making, creating harmony, enjoying the beauty of like relationships and just like, valuing the connections we have with our one-on-one connections or romantic relationships. Any relationships are like that. Venus loves to be in Libra. It's one of her home signs. She has all the resources to express herself, very diplomatic, she can be more peaceful and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a very diplomatic kind of energy, very ease, very, calm, very receptive, I should say. But she's going to be entering Scorpio right here, and then Mercury's in Capricorn, about to station retrograde. So Mercury's going to be in this spot for quite some time because it's going to be stationing, and it's going to be making this trine over here to Jupiter, which is going to be very beneficial. But Mercury's going to be in the trine to Jupiter and then a sextile to Saturn. But he's basically slowing down. So like whatever plans we're starting, whatever we're thinking in this kind of area, this new area of life or whatever, it's really in a great positive aspect to Saturn and Jupiter. Like with Mercury sextile Saturn is a great time to negotiate things with like authority figures, sign contracts and stuff like that. But don't sign any contracts just yet. Because Mercury will be slowing down and stationing retrograde. Once Mercury comes back to this spot in like the end of January, the end of December, I should say, the beginning of January, forms this sextile to Saturn, that will be the time to negotiate any contracts, sign contracts, make plans for your long-term goals and stuff like that. It'll be trining Jupiter. Jupiter is basically about expansion and stuff like that. Like Mercury's about the rational side. Jupiter's about our philosophical side, the philosophy. Oh my God, I can't even speak. The philosophical kind of side of us. So when the rational side of like Mercury is forming a positive angle to this philosophical side of to Jupiter, this can really help us create more stability in our thoughts, what we're trying to plan for. What we're trying to grow into. That's an important thing. But like I said, it's going to be stationing retrograde, so don't really kind of, take this with a grain of salt, guys. Once Mercury comes back to this spot, will be the time to really, like, get those plans rolling, because that will create the growth. But this is giving you a little glimpse of what will happen, what you are being basically like offered. This is a little vision happening right here that you will basically come back to in the next couple months to really understand. This will give you the stability. This will give you more like realistic kind of plans of what you can set in motion. Mercury in Capricorn is very realistic in the way it thinks. It can be more like leaning towards the melancholic kind of way, very like but that's just kind of Capricorn energy. It's really like trying to set goals into action. This is Earth sign. Mercury's in an Earth sign, Jupiter's in an Earth sign. It's a very like Capricorn and Taurus. It's very like just material business kind of like just energy. That's how I see it. The earth signs are all about just like material, like realistic building structures, stuff like that. It's realistic material, tangible stuff. So, little example of that. Let's go back to Venus. So Venus just entered Scorpio. This is a sign of her, not her fault. It's a sign of her. She's in her detriment. The sign of her detriment, because Venus rules the sign of Taurus as well as Libra. So when Venus is in, opposite from her home sign, like Scorpio, or if it's opposite of Libra, it's going to be, in Aries. So those are the two signs that she is in her detriment, Scorpio and Aries. Venus and Scorpio, Venus is about value, love, beauty, aesthetics, connections, fun, sex, stuff like that. When it's in Scorpio, it really has this deep connection to what we value in relationships. Like it really doesn't it doesn't do all that well in here. That doesn't mean if you have this placement, you are the worst person in the world. That's nothing. That does not mean that at all. This is just, this is Venus entering a new area of our life. Venus, like I said, can be very passionate in love. It can be a little obsessive, leaning towards obsessionness. It can be, Venus and Scorpio. It values sex. I'm just gonna put that out there, and it does enjoy that. That's just Scorpio. But if you put the planet of enjoyment and pleasures in the sign of Scorpio, you get the hint, guys. But Venus really is Venus when it's in detriment, I guess you could say either or. When it's in Scorpio or in Aries, it can really go without a lot of pleasures and stuff like that. Because it's especially with I guess you could say Scorpio, because it's a fixed sign, so it's very kind of fixed in the way it's what it values, what it what it wants, what it how it enjoys things and stuff like that. What else can I say? I mean, it's a very just deep, passionate sign, and the way it expresses its love, it wants somebody, if somebody has this placement, it doesn't want no casual dating or something. It wants that soulmate, that deep, passionate connection with someone. So if you have this placement, try not to really go on shallow, don't be shallow, or don't hang around with people that are shallow, because it's not going to work out. You need that really deep connection with somebody, and it can be hard. A lot of people that have this placement, or probably Venus and Aries, have a hard time relating to other people, because it's in this this deep martial kind of energy, in this martial sign. It's a martial sign. It's deep, it's not really receptive. Venus and Scorpio, or Venus and Aries, really has to use this Mars-like energy to go after what it wants. That's the way that Venus receives anything when she's in a Mars ruled sign, Scorpio and Aries. We have to go after, instead of being Venus and Libra or Taurus, having things be coming towards us, receiving that pleasure, receiving all that love. Venus goes after. It's a very interesting kind of note that I've learned about, especially over the last couple of years. So that's kind of Venus in Scorpio and stuff. Okay, so let's see. Let's kind of move on here. So Mercury's about to station retrograde. You can see there's a little red S. That means it's stopped. And boom, Mercury is in retrograde at 8 degrees of Capricorn. It will basically go from 8 degrees of Capricorn to where the sun is at 22 degrees of Sagittarius. This will be the territory where Mercury will be in retrograde. So if you have any planets around 22 degrees of Sagittarius all the way to 8 degrees of Capricorn, this will be challenge, affecting your sign, or affecting those planets or whatever points that you have in your chart. Okay, so Sagittarius and Capricorn, that's where Mercury's going to be retrograding in. Okay, so yeah, this Mercury retrograde, it's like I said, it's still kind of in this trine to Jupiter, which is very beneficial, but there's things that we're going to have to rethink about. There's there's going to be delays. There's going to be plans that we really need to change during this time. Excuse me. So my voice just kind of cut off right there. So Mercury's in retrograde now. Let's kind of just go through. We're in December now. Oh yeah, hold on. Let me get back to this new moon in Sagittarius. I almost missed. So basically, Mercury goes retrograde during this new moon in Sagittarius. Okay, so new moon, like I said, reset intentions. This is in Sagittarius. This is about bringing more hope, more optimism, more faith, more like intuitive insights. Refreshing your vision. Mars is basically in the mix of this again. Because Mars is basically being combust the sun since it's been in Scorpio and Sagittarius and stuff like that. But yeah, new moon in Sagittarius. It's around like 20 degrees or whatever. This is like what can we set? What do we have to do? That we can actually expand into this vision and stuff like that. And now that I'm thinking of it, like I'm just noticing this now. Like the new moon is it's in a trine, or it's aspecting the nodes of faith, the north node and the south node. The south node's not here, but it's opposite where the north node is at in Aries. The north node is at 21 Aries, south node is at 21 in Libra. So this could be very faithful in what we set our intentions to, So I'm just putting that out there. I just noticed this right now. I didn't even notice it when I was trying to record in the last two videos, or when I was trying to record this video. So this new moon in Sagittarius will be very faithful. Yes, it'll be in a square to Neptune where things won't make sense. Things are going to be very elusive, deceptive, foggy and stuff like that. But fate will be on our side. You can even say, Chiron's in the mix of it, trining this stuff. Whatever. Our wounds are probably going to be feeling better at this time, or whatever. Just kind of mixing it with it. So this can be a very fateful new moon in Sagittarius. Okay, Mercury's in retrograde, it's going backwards, blah, blah, blah. And then it basically conjuncts the sun, makes that Cazimi. This is, like I said, with Mars and stuff like that. When Mars went Cazimi, this is Mercury Cazimi now, but this is Mercury retrograde Cazimi. So this is like finally understanding why things were delayed, why we had to change our plans about what was going on. It's in a basically sextile to Saturn. It's like, okay, now we can go back to this negotiation or these plans that we want to create for our long-term goals and stuff like that. It's basically trining Jupiter. There's growth here. We are understanding what we need to do to get that growth and stuff like that. So Sun enters Capricorn season, winter is here. Mercury goes back into Sagittarius, and then basically, okay, let's go to the full moon and right here. Okay, full moon in Cancer. Moon is in its home sign of Cancer. It's very nurturing. It's very, if it wants to feel safe. This is illuminating more emotional safety and stuff like that. Yes, it's opposing the sun in Capricorn. It's very, focused on the getting back to reality after all this holiday season stuff and all that, this crazy chaotic Sagittarius energy. But the full moon in Cancer, it's in a positive angle to Saturn and Jupiter. This is what astrologers call a basket. You see this right here? Sextile, opposition. It looks like a basket basically. It's like an upside down basket. But yeah, like this is a great alignment. So like the new moon in Sagittarius and the full moon in Cancer in December looks really good. It looks better than the last lunations we've had, because we've been going through eclipse season. We've been going through some challenging oppositions from Scorpio and Taurus, Mars and Uranus, the Sun and Uranus. All the planets opposing Jupiter and Scorpio and stuff like that. And then, so yeah, that looks really good. So Mercury's kind of like going back into this little conjunction with Mars as it's kind of stationing. So, hold on, let me go to the days. Okay, so, and then they make their conjunction. Whenever Mars and Mercury come together, we gotta watch what we say. When it was in Scorpio, we were kind of just like, fixated on this is what we're gonna say. Doesn't matter if it hurts or not. We're just gonna cut straight to the point. Having this in Sagittarius might be not as cutthroat or might not be as deep, but it could be a little fiery, a little heated, because it is a fire sign and stuff like that. So just kind of putting that out there. So we are basically, okay, so look, the sun is going to be trining Jupiter, right? I mentioned that. Whenever the sun forms a trine to any of these outer planets, It either means that they're going direct or they're stationing retrograde. So just watch Jupiter. Watch this little RX kind of disappear. Okay, so now it's at and it says an S. That means it's stopped. It's stationing. And then boom. So Jupiter is basically, it's done with this retrograde. So from when Jupiter went retrograde, it went retrograde at like 15 degrees of Taurus. Now that Jupiter has gone back, it's basically kind of internalized this growth from what we've been gifted with since Jupiter has been direct this past year. Now that we understand, we're back at this point where Jupiter's like, okay, now that we've done this internal work, internal growth, let's kind of, make changes. Let's do this one more time, and let's kind of like understand this growth a little deeper. Like the area of life that represents Taurus. Hold on, let me just let me do this real quick. Let me try to okay. Now that we can like kind of see it more. Okay, so the area of life that Taurus represents in our chart, we've been kind of growing in this area. It's been a slow, steady growth. Like it's a steadfast kind of energy. Taurus is not a sign that likes to do things fast or quick or whatever. When Jupiter was in Aries, it was like, okay, boom, boom, we got to do this quick. We got to do this now. If we believe in ourselves, we can make this happen. Now that Jupiter has been in Taurus, it's kind of like, okay, let's kind of settle into the grass. Let's kind of like ground ourselves. Let's get a little, let's take one step at a time, because this is all about longevity. Taurus is the sign about the long run, basically. Like it's not like a fast sign, like I said, but it's an earth sign. So all of the earth signs for Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo are all about, taking things one step at a time. Especially, I would say, well, I guess you could say all three signs. Like Capricorn's really about like taking one step at a time, climbing the mountain, stuff like that. But Taurus is all about, looking towards like the long game, the long term or whatever. Okay. Anyways, so Jupiter is direct now. Now Jupiter is going to be coming toward a conjunction to Uranus, which is going to be crazy cool. Okay, if you go over here, Mercury there's a little S by Mercury. That means he's stopped. He is, hold on, let me, okay, now Mercury is direct at this point. Venus is in Sagittarius at the time, so everything's kind of like very enjoyable. But at this time, as soon as Mercury goes direct, from this point on, everything will go on. Look, we're in the beginning of the year, and the beginning of the year is when everything will start to move forward, okay? So we're in this point in November, December. Things are not moving fast. Things are kind of like, we have to just do little things at a time. We have to get through like these little restrictions, we have to redo things, we have to replan our decisions and stuff like that. But once we get to the end of December into January, that's when we can, start moving and make things happen. Uranus will basically end up being the only one retrograde until the end of January. And then once Uranus stations direct, boom, that's another planet. That's another planet that we can finally, not worry about being in retrograde. So from around January 3rd, or the end of January, if you want to count Uranus in retrograde, so January all the way to the end of March will be the only time, well, not only time, one of the times of the year that we won't have any retrograde planets. So if you have any plans, you want to sign contracts, you want to start a new job, you want to start a relationship, you want to start anything, the beginning of the year will be the time to start your New Year's resolutions. That is what I'm going to end with today. If you enjoyed this, please like and please share. Please follow for more. I will try to get back on these videos as much as I can. I know it's been quite a while since I've been kind of busy with a lot of things, trying to get things in order and stuff like that. So yeah, I will get back as soon as possible. I will leave the descriptions below to access my merch. If you want to join my Patreon, but I'm trying to, sort out a lot of things on my Patreon, so don't worry about that. If you want to access the merch, please access the merch. I will have many sales going on this probably every month. Okay, guys? All right. So I will see you in the next video. Please like if you didn't like already. All right. Catch you later, guys.